So, like Robert said, please feel free to interrupt at any time. This is an informal presentation. I want to thank you for inviting me. I had fun going back in time to pull some information together. So that was good. I presented it to my team today, and some of the people, haven't been there for as long as I have. And so they found some of the stats interesting also. So hopefully you'll enjoy this, right? So we have been with AWS for 15 years, which I couldn't believe when Will had me go back and look. I'm like, wow, yes, no, it's been that long. So as with all technology, things have really changed over time. And that's what you're going to see is just how much the technology has changed. So I wanted to start out with who is, I don't think many of you, have any of you heard of us before? Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of background on us, go over some statistics, show you what our architecture looks like. I went back to see what data centers we had been at, and I'm amazed. I think we're at 5 or 6 data centers in 15 years. So I'll give you a little tour of that. And then I'll talk about Hurricane Sandy and how we survived that. And then there was another incident we had with S3. I'll give you some, tell you that little story. And then I put together our cost history over the years. And again, things have obviously gone down, price per gig and things like that have gone down a lot over the years. And then I'll finish up with just a little bit on AWS education, okay, and how we use that at Kutztown. Right. Any questions on the agenda? Good. Okay. So Vidler is an online video platform that started out in 2005 from Lehigh University. I was actually going to Kutztown for my master's, and on a National Science Foundation grant between Kutztown and Lehigh, got hired as a graduate teaching fellow at Lehigh and had to take some e-learning classes. And in there, I met my co-founder who had this idea to put video online. This is 2005. This is pre-YouTube. And we worked with a company called Macromedia and Flash and launched our company. We're also a Ben Franklin company, so we got funding from Lehigh, and then from there we got funding from Ben Franklin, and then spent most of our company time in Southside Bethlehem. And right now we have an office in Northside Bethlehem, but we're all virtual, have been for a while. So we started out as thinking of it as YouTube for businesses. And today we have a product that is a staff engagement platform for healthcare organizations. So when I say YouTube for businesses, I mean we let people embed videos, customize the videos, put them on their websites, put comments in the videos, put call to actions in the video so they could drive traffic back to their websites if that's what they chose. And the picture here is just an example of our staff engagement platform. So we work with St. Luke's locally. They're one of our local clients. And the way the program works is employees or staff watch short videos. They earn points for watching those videos and sharing them out on social. And then they can redeem those points at a store where they get to redeem it for branded gear. And then the branded gear is shipped to their house. So St. Luke's has been on this program for about 5 years now. And there's 150,000 branded pieces of gear floating about the Lehigh Valley that say St. Luke's on them. So it's a really awesome marketing program for an organization, as well as an engagement. It lets the community know what's going on within the organization, service lines, what they're doing out in the community. So it's been a lot of fun. some statistics. So I went back to 2011. All right. We had an article on high scalability. And at that point, we were doing 7 million embed views per day. So we were getting 7 million video views a day. We had about 3,000 videos being uploaded every day. We had a screaming architecture, and we were getting 1,500 requests per second at the peak, which means 130 people at every second were pressing the play button. So we had a lot of people watching us, and we were serving about 1 petabyte of data a month. So we were also pretty much a global organization at that time. Some of the stats, you see here that 24/7, we had a pretty good range of requests per second, going from like 300 to 600, depending on the time of day. And this is a weekend, right? So this is like off-peak time. So our marketing at the time was we provide billions of views on millions of videos for thousands of clients in hundreds of companies around the world, hundreds of countries around the world. So we had a very large following. When I hired the gentleman who's now our president, when I hired him back in 2011, he's like, I can't believe Vidler's, in Bethlehem, right, in Pennsylvania. Because back in the day, if you wanted to upload video, you either chose YouTube, Vimeo, or Vidler. We were number 3. Our revenue model was ads to start, and there was no way we could compete with Google and YouTube for ad revenue. So we went private for businesses, providing secure platform for folks to stream their videos. So we have large clients like Amazon and McGraw-Hill Higher Ed, and smaller clients like St. Luke's and some other of the hospitals. Xscribe is a local company in Bethlehem. They're also a client. C-SPAN was a client for a number of years. So it's been a lot of fun. All right. Today, so we're focused in on the staff engagement platform. So it's a smaller user base. And today we have 64 instances running up in Amazon. We have 97 S3 buckets, about 594 terabytes of storage, 8 load balancers to keep everything up and running. We've had about 1.6 million users and 28 million videos. So it's a pretty nice platform. For any questions on the platform? For the different architectures, so this is actually something I use in my classes, this diagram. So if you think of an architecture, right? You can have, if you're on premises, you have to manage everything, right? It's bare metal, and you have to install the operating system. You're responsible for other blade servers and getting them networked together. If you use a platform, you can get infrastructure as a service, which means the provider provides all the virtualization, the servers, the storage, and the networking. That's their problem, right? So if the fans aren't working, they have to worry, the provider has to worry about it. But you as an organization are still responsible for maintaining and updating the operating system, any middleware, the databases, and then your application. The next level up from that is platform as a service. That says, hey, provider, you're going to take care of everything except for my application and my data. And all this headache here, all the maintenance of the operating system and the applications are all handled by your managed hosting provider. And then the final level is software as a service, and that's, you're using Salesforce or Blackboard or any of the applications that are out on the internet. So Vidler is considered a software as a service. Our clients access it in the cloud, and then their users can also access it, and we customize it for them. So as far as Amazon goes, we use AWS as an infrastructure. We started out bare metal. We started out with servers and we did everything. We would buy half a rack or eventually a full rack, and we just did it all. And we were very fortunate that our original architect, Todd Troxel, is an extremely brilliant young man and has a lot of experience. I mean, his email is debian.org. He was in Rackspace for a long time. So, you know, he was a mover and shaker in the industry, and we were very blessed to get him on our team. So we went from bare metal, and then as part of the Amazon, we're now infrastructure as a service. So just to set the frame of what we're looking at. Okay. This is our architecture when we are in the data centers. So since 2008, we've been in Amazon for our upload and encoding. So, you know, think YouTube, right? So when you upload a video, it gets encoded, and then you can do some customization to it, and then you display it on YouTube and people come and watch it. So we have a number of servers out on Amazon. They're actually dynamically scaled. We usually have 4 running at any one time, but we can auto scale up to about 40 servers. And that's all managed by our system, our application. That's something we do. We have 3 web servers and 4 API servers. So in the beginning, Vidler was built by developers for developers, and we have a very strong API. And the majority of folks who started out with us, people like from, I want to say Engage, that's not, Engadget, Telerik. So techie companies where the developers could come in, use our APIs and customize how they wanted video on their web pages and on their platforms. So we're integrated into a number of platforms. McGraw-Hill started with us early on because of our API interfaces. We're the video platform for the Connect product, heavily used by the English as a second language courses. So we have the 4 API nodes. Our back end is all Java. Our front end is Rails, and we have 4 Rails servers to handle the front end of our application. We have a couple of Apache nodes to run the Java. When we were in a data center, we had 2 load balancers. We're now up to 8 load balancers. And then we have 4 databases just to manage our application, user management, video management, and 2 whole separate databases, master slave set up just for our analytics. So getting those, you know, billions of video views, we're collecting who watched what, from where, for how long. When you watch 25% of a video, 50%, 75, 100%, if you clicked anything, if you answered questions in the video. So there's just tons of analytic data that we keep track of. Okay. We also use a CDN. So a user uploads the video, gets encoded, gets managed in our system, and then user comes to watch that video, and it gets pulled from S3 and goes through our content delivery network. So our content delivery network is Edgio is its name now. It started out as Edgecast in 2008, and we were customer number 8 with Edgecast. So they were a startup, we were a startup. We've had a very long relationship with them. They got bought out by Verizon for a while, and they were called Verizon Digital Media. Then Verizon sold them to Limelight, and now they're known as Edgio. So they've been a wonderful provider for us. And also their costs have plummeted over the years as bandwidth got cheaper and cheaper. Okay. I think that's everything.
Donna?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Is that, so Edgio, is that EDGEIO?
I think it's EDGIO.
EDGI, okay.
Yeah. I don't EDGIO. Yeah. If you look up Edgecast, it should redirect for you. So, but they have endpoints all over the globe. And again, when we started, they had, you know, endpoints in, you know, the United States, none in Latin America. Then we went up to 1 in Latin America, a couple in Europe. Now we're up to a lot in Europe. So it's really been interesting to watch that all grow. For our data centers in 2006 or 7, I want to say, we won a business plan competition at Lehigh University, and the first place prize was $2,000. So we took that and we bought 1 blade server because that was the cost of a server. Put it in the back of Rob's car, my co-founder, drove it up to a seedy neighborhood in New York, went in a back door and plugged it into a rack. And we were online. That was it. That was our first server. So once we got the website up and running, we put our upload and encode, like I said, that was all out, EC2 nodes out on Amazon. And then we quickly outgrew that server. Limelight is actually a competitor CDN, and they were trying to get us to switch to them. So they actually let us host our servers for a while out in their data center. Not something commonly done these days. We moved to EC Suite, which was actually out in Phoenix, Arizona, and we were there for a while. And again, they didn't quite have the bandwidth or the power. So we went to Internap's New York location. And then for a while, we had both. We had a cross-connect arrangement between Phoenix NAP and Internap in the East Coast. So we had our architecture split there. In 2012, we were in Internap, and not a whole lot going on in the Phoenix NAP at that point. Nothing that we could roll over to. It was mainly just for backups and analytics. And so when Hurricane Sandy hit, 10 years ago, actually, I can't believe it's been that long. So, you know, you want to be prepared. You want to have a disaster recovery plan. We did. I had fun going through some old emails to like try and remember the timeline of things. So very big list we had, but number 10 was Donna, Kuba, and Chris are continuing preparations of contingencies in the event of an outage at Internap. All right, the targeted plan will be, and resources, targeted plan will be completed. So we have the detailed plan, and all resources will be pre-positioned by 6 a.m. I guess it was Sunday morning. So what we were doing was we had everything up and running in Internap, all the web servers and API servers. And we were making replicas of all those packages and builds and sticking them on an EC2 node so that we could spin them up anywhere else, right? And we had this full disaster recovery plan. Internap did an amazing job of keeping in touch with everybody, what was going on. We were continuously getting updates from them. Internap is at 111th 8th Avenue, which is known as the Google building. I forget what floor they were on, but they went down, and they went down hard. There was concern for people's safety at one point. So we're all good. Internap's like, we're all good. We have our generators. We're all ready. We're backed up. We're going to be good. And then Manhattan flooded, and the generators were all in the basement. So that didn't work well. They had generators at other levels, including the roof. And so what people wound up doing is carrying 5-gallon buckets of kerosene from the mezzanine level where there was fuel all the way up to the roof, right? And they did that until and that was able to keep the generators going. And then once the hurricane passed, tankers just kept driving in and keeping it going. And the way we kept track was how many hours of fuel do we have. So they would have, 62 hours of fuel remaining or 110 hours of fuel remaining. And that's how they kept up and running. We went down for about 24 hours. So our first line of business was to make sure the team was okay, right? And there's a whole series of emails, everybody saying whether they had power or not, whether they had food or not. Our Bethlehem office didn't have power or internet for a couple days, but when it came back, still some of our employees in the surrounding areas still didn't have power. So they were coming into the office just to get warm, to be able to recharge devices, and just, have lights for a while. The thing we didn't do was actually execute our disaster recovery plan before the disaster occurred. So while we had this really good, awesome checklist and things to do as to how to replicate our architecture up in AWS, we had never run through it before. We had never physically done it, and we couldn't do it. So my house, I live in Berks County, and my house was intergalactic headquarters for Vidler for about 24 hours because I had internet and my power came back on pretty quickly. We also have a Polish team that we work with. They helped us develop the initial platform, and we stayed in touch with them, and they were still working with us as of 2012. So we had the folks in Poland who were also available. I was in Berks County, and the rest of the team was honestly much more concerned about getting the lights back on and getting power. So it took us about 24 hours to get up and running, and we were doing things in parallel. So we were trying to get AWS, we went AWS West. By default, we're, Virginia, AWS East, and we consciously chose to do AWS West. So we were in parallel. The Polish team was trying to get AWS West up and running based on what we thought was a complete architecture and build. And a couple other of us were keeping in contact with Internet and seeing how they were doing. We are not mission critical. If there's a disaster and people can't watch their videos, that's okay, right? There's much more important applications and organizations that have to get up and running, hospitals, EMSs, Wall Street, right? So we were not high on the priority list, and we did not ask to be high on the priority list while all this was going down. So we were down for 24 hours altogether. And just as we were doing the final QA test on the AWS platform, Internet came back up, right? So we wound up never going live with the AWS West. We just went back and got our Internet servers up and running. Our customers were amazing. I think we got, I don't remember any negative comments. Everybody said, thanks for the hard work. The tweets were all woohoo, my videos are back up. Congratulations. Thank you, Vidler. One tweet was, oh my gosh, I'm definitely using Vidler from now on. The mayor of Bethlehem tweeted out and said, you guys are awesome. Thanks so much for busting your asses. So all in all, it, was a good experience. But the moral of the story is, don't just have a disaster recovery plan, execute it, and execute it multiple times so that your team, is used to doing it. Today, we're in a much different situation. Everything we do, we use containers and Dockers with Docker, and we are constantly just recreating our architecture. So, like our dev environment, or in our staging environment, we just rebuild them from scratch, and it's just, run these containers. So, we're in a much better position today. Okay. So that was fun. And then in 2014, Internet suddenly lost its lease, as in, hi, you have 30 days to move all your stuff out of the data center. Google, Google owns the building, and Google was taking back all the data center space that it had leased to other companies because it was growing rapidly and it needed the space. So it was very scary. It was, how do we get our hardware out of there, right? How do we get it moved down to Tier Point? We went with Tier Point in Bronxville. Is anybody familiar with Tier Point? Awesome data center, awesome set of folks there. So we knew people at Tier Point, so we called them up and we're like, you know, we need something now. So it was more cost efficient and safe for us to buy all new hardware to get loaded into a Tier Point rack than it was to try and move all our old hardware from Internet to Tier Point. We sent moving trucks up to Internet, got all our equipment out. Some of it went to Tier Point, some of it we sold, but it was a very I don't know, just very high pressure situation within like a 30-day period of, hey, you've got to move, to, hey, we're in a new data center. We stayed with Tier Point for a number of years. Our VMs and everything, our servers were all reaching end of life. And at that point, we decided to move everything to AWS. So as of 2021, our entire architecture is on AWS. Okay. So that was sort of what made us do our decision there. It wasn't worth purchasing more hardware. It wasn't worth leasing newer machines at higher rates. We had a great deal with Tier Point. So we decided to just move everything up to Amazon, up to AWS. So the way we did this is we did a lift and shift. Right, we just took the current architecture, the 80 some instances that we had, the APIs, the everything, right? We just lifted it, moved it, and shifted it to AWS. Okay, so that was phase one. Then phase two was to go in and optimize everything. Everything was not in containers when we did the lift and shift. Almost all of it within the year has been put into containers. So we're still looking at moving to Kubernetes. We're really happy with Docker and the containers, and it's working well for us at this point. So Kubernetes is like on the roadmap, but we're not in a rush, right? We were able to get a 26% reduction in the number of instances we used. We're high availability now, so we don't have to worry about if the East Coast goes down, we all go down. Amazon takes care of that. AWS takes care of that, right? They have the high availability. We also added Route 53. We had been on Linode for a number of years, switched over to Route 53, and we're up to 8 load balancers. We are still doing our own auto scaling. We know AWS provides it, but it is so integral to our application for us trying to optimize when somebody uploads and encodes a video, getting that out to them. Quite honestly, depending on the platform, the plan that somebody has, with us, our enterprise clients have a higher priority as far as getting their videos encoded, rather than the folks who are only paying us a little bit every month. Another lesson learned is AWS was very accommodating in helping us move and provided us lots of credits. They also provided us a third-party vendor who was to help us with their expertise. The way my developer says it is, he said they did really good at patting our backs and giving us comfort and saying, you can fix this problem. So we didn't get a whole lot of value out of either the first or second vendor that we used. They were somebody to bounce ideas off of, give us some comfort that what we were doing was okay, but we did not heavily rely on them. Okay. Next story is S3. Back in 2013, shortly after AWS introduced Glacier, are you folks familiar with Glacier in S3 buckets? Right, it's you put it there and forget it. Yep.
Anna?
Yes.
Before you move forward, I have one question about your move to AWS. Are you still using your Edge.io?
Yes. Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, we did not ever move to our CDN to AWS. Great question. Yeah, we're very happy with them. Like I said, we've been with them for years. Our clients, thousands and thousands of our clients have their own buckets on Edgecast. So it would be quite an effort to move off of that. So we have gone from, we started out with Flash. We did Flash video and Flash recording. We were one of the few folks that did live recording back in the early 2000s. We're now obviously all HTML5, and but we are doing encoding. It's not real-time encoding. You uploaded the file, we encode the multiple file formats for you. Okay, and Edgecast is just really good at serving that up for us. Okay, good question. Thank you. So back in the early days of Glacier, we had hundreds of terabytes of data we were paying lots of money for, and we wanted to try and reduce our cost. So we wanted to move a bunch of videos that weren't being accessed after 30 days to Glacier. And we wanted to delete, once users left our platform, we gave them 30 days after we deleted, we gave them 30 days, delete their account, and then deleted their videos. And I'm like, this is hard delete, not in soft delete. You can get your stuff back. This was hard delete because it was expensive and they weren't paying us money anymore. So we're like, all right, let's take advantage of Glacier. This way we can, put people's source videos out there because they're not going to use that. They're going to use the encoded formats. So that was the plan. The implementation was, all right, let's move them. And after we moved hundreds of thousands of pieces of information, it was the wrong list. So then we had to move them back out. And that's where AWS gets you, right? You can put as much as you want in, but try and pull it out, right? And then that's where it gets expensive. And then, oh, by the way, move some back. So it was a very painful, very expensive lesson. And it was one of those things like, is this the list? Yes, the list. Did you check the list? I checked the list. And everybody on the team swore that we had done it correctly, and we just didn't. Right? So now, if you move to AWS, there's a little button you click that says, yes, I want my files moved to Glacier after 30 days or 60 days. And then they have the, what's it called, the instant access tier or intelligent access tier. So at this point, AWS is managing it. You as an end user determine what the rules are, and then AWS will manage that for you. So much safer, much better. Okay. Quick on our cost history. So this is what we've spent over the years. This top one is about 500K. So just to give you an idea. So in the beginning, we didn't even track EC2 versus S3. It was just all AWS. So we had our managed hosting costs, which is in the yellow, and then our AWS cost. In 2014, we started tracking them separately. Okay, and then that helped us manage our cost. In 2009 is when we started our freemium service. So you could join for free, you could upload 3 videos, you could stream them for a little bit. But then you'd have to pay us a monthly subscription fee. We were at this point in time, YouTube was limiting you to 10-minute videos. We did not limit you to the duration. So we got a large group of users who were uploading them playing video games. And my colleagues and I and our investor is like, who would ever watch people playing video games on the internet? So we couldn't advertise against them. Tide, Procter and Gamble, nobody wanted to advertise against these people. PlayStation, Microsoft, I hadn't thought of it yet. They weren't even doing streaming ads at this point. So we politely said, you either have to pay us or you have to leave. And they left en masse and went to this little video company called Justin TV. Does anybody remember Justin TV? You might know them as their current name, Twitch. So we actually worked with Justin early on. He was doing live streaming, like he streamed his life back in 2007, 2008. But in one of those look back moments, like, oh man, but it was costing us just way too much money to support these young gamers, without getting any revenue. So we asked them to leave. Then in 2014, anybody who had not joined us as a subscription was asked to leave. It was just getting too hard for us to manage. The free users, we were doing really well with the business users. So in 2014, we just removed them and we instantly started saving money on bandwidth and storage once we deleted their videos. And then from there, a lot of this is us managing our costs, working with AWS. We have a sysadmin that does an amazing job of finding deals on AWS. He's responsible for, how many instances do we reserve every year versus how many instances are dynamic. He helps calculate the size that we use. So he's really been instrumental in getting us very efficient with our costs. So that's that. Okay. The last topic is AWS for education. So I started teaching at Kutztown about 6 years ago. So I had a career in industry. I started out in anti-submarine warfare, doing digital signal processing, went to teaching software engineering, started Vidler, and then went back to teaching software engineering, mainly software engineering at Kutztown. So I've been doing teaching at Kutztown for 6 years now. I love it. It's a lot of fun. I love working with the students. And in the software engineering classes, I have them, the software engineering senior seminar class is 2 semesters, and they have to design and create a product. And if it's a software product, they need to support and host that application in the cloud. So we have servers at Kutztown that they can use, for like simple web apps and things. But really, to get them industry ready, they need to understand how the cloud works. They need to understand how GitHub and Git work, how teams work. So we do all that in these 2 semester classes, and we have something called demo day at the end where they present their products to the community and the students. So AWS has worked really well for us. I have not tried Microsoft Azure. They seem to, when I looked into it, they seem to be like nitpicking what free was. Amazon is much more free. There's still gotchas. So if you spin the servers up, right, you get so much free time. If you go over that, like it's 100 or 267 hours for some of them, then you'll incur costs. And it's mainly for the database servers. The Lambda services are all or were all free last time I checked because they're trying to get people to use them. So there's tons of tutorials out there for the students to go out and figure it out themselves. The majority of them can have the basic coverage. They'll spin up, LAMP servers, or they'll spin up a web server, or some of them spin up separate database servers. Some of them do mobile apps and they hook the back end into AWS. So there's a lot of different combinations. If you do this, one of the things I stress is have the students set up budget alerts. There's a little tutorial on it, but basically you set up alert that says, hey, if you're going to charge me more than $1 this month, please email me ahead of time. So that way the students know that they're going to incur a cost. Any students who have not set this up, and then they go in and spin down the servers basically, or just, spin them down. Anyone who has gotten a bill, I mean, it's been $39, $79. They email AWS support, and 100% of the time the bill's been waived, right? Hi, I'm a student. We're using your services. I kept my server up and running too long, and I got this bill, and it's waived 100% of the time. So keep that in mind.
Quick question.
Sure.
Students use their own accounts to do this.
Yes.
So credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, for a while I had a Visa gift card that we passed around, and then that eventually expired. So I haven't replaced it. Nobody's asked me to to fund them. But yes, they put in their own credit card, and then they actually are much more thinking about doing the budget alerts. Okay. We've also used AWS Academy. We started it so that the students, there was credits that the students could get. And I think it used to be like $50 a student to apply towards your AWS expenses, but they don't provide you anything for free, right? Everything costs something. And if it's a team of students, you can pool your credits and get them covered. There's a lot of really good free courses out there. Some of them are self-directed. Some of them are timed. I used to just open the courses up and let the students go through at their own pace. So it was in addition to a regular class. It wasn't a class focused on, AWS. At this point, we're using it mainly for our big data classes because they can go in and get lots of processing power. And I'm honestly not sure exactly which services they're using. I think it uses Canvas as the LMS. It uses one of the big, I'm pretty sure it's Canvas that it uses as its LMS. And then there's another vendor for doing the labs. I want to say it's Vocaris, and that gets you into the AWS account. So have any of you folks used AWS Academy? No. Yeah. So if you're teaching classes and you want your students to learn AWS, it's a great resource, right? A lot of it's there's a whole free and open source level to it, and they do provide a lot of support for it. So that's all I have. Oh no, I forgot my thank you slide. So questions, comments?
Hey, Donna, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, what do you use to create your instances on AWS? Like, do you have infrastructure management like Terraform?
To create the instances, I'm pretty sure we just go into our AWS dashboard. We have Cloud Watch. I don't think that does it.
Confirmation.
Docker, pardon me?
Confirmation.
No, we use Docker. So it's whatever however the Docker containers start out.
Use Docker and EC2 or are you
Yeah, on
using
EC2, yep.
or using Elastic Container Service?
EC2. Yeah, because we use we have so many reserved instances of so many different sizes and types.
It looks like you do a great job on controlling costs, and you mentioned someone that does very good purchasing of basically discount plans, whether they're
Yep.
single or
Yep.
reserved instances. But is there any other things that you do to reduce costs? Are there any other techniques or methods that you're aware of?
That's really it. That when we optimized, when we did the lift and shift, it was like 87 instances we needed, and we got it down, or 84, I forget the exact numbers, but 84 down to 67, basically. So we optimized that way by looking at, just looking at the statistics, CPU usage, and mainly the CPU usage and how many hits we were getting on each of the servers and the load balancers and stuff. That we still have, like, we now have like four uploaded and code nodes that are always running, right? Because we looked at the analytics. So it's really just looking at our analytics. We use Nginx, Grafana. We used to have a really good Grafana, and then when we moved data centers, we didn't move that with us. So we're in the process. That's one of our sysadmins to-dos, is to get us our Grafana dashboard back so that everybody can see what's going on.
Do you run your database in a container, or are you running a managed database?
We use RDS. So yes, they're in containers. The whole staff engagement platform, right?
RDS should be managed.
Yeah. I'm not sure then.
Okay.
I'd have to go look at my GitHub and look at the Docker. So it might be the RDSs for the core platform, and then for the staff engagement platform. Yeah, because they do nothing but, everything is containerized. They do nothing but start a container to run that staff engagement platform. And then it's really cool. They have the platform all spin up, then they seed it with data. So we actually seed the database with data all within the Docker container.
Or if I may ask, what database engine you use? Use MySQL or Postgres?
No, MySQL.
You briefly mentioned Nginx. If I heard you right, you were talking about that's what you were using for monitoring prior to going to AWS. Or is that what you meant to say?
Yeah, we have basically we have three different applications, but the core application runs on Tomcat and Apache, Rails, and Java backend, right? And then the staff engagement platform is, oh my gosh, all containerized. I want to say it's React, JavaScript. It's mainly API driven. The APIs, a lot of them are in Go. Yeah. So it's been too long since I sat down and looked at code.
I guess what I'm getting at is, when you went to AWS, are you entirely relying on CloudFormation?
Yes.
And that's worked out well for you. You're not regretting that.
We haven't had downtime. We haven't had issues. Not that I'm aware of.
Not that you should regret it. We're on probably the last quarter or third of our clearing our data center into AWS, and our mantra is very much to, whenever possible, use the native tools. So I'm reassured to hear that CloudWatch is working for you.
Yes, yeah.
CloudWatch.
And we don't pay for that. They like, you know, threw that in.
Yeah, we've had a good experience with CloudFormation, which was just mentioned. Rick mentioned it. I guess it's worth asking. You said it was a lift and shift, and you've refactored along the way, taking advantage of AWS services. To what extent would you say you're using CloudFormation, CDK, and other tools to be entirely, again, the end of the day is the wrong time to do anything, something as code. What's the phrase? Infrastructure is code. Thank you.
Yeah.
Would you say you're most of the way there, or you passed that point a while ago?
That's a great question. I mean, we just talked today, like my goal was to get us here, right? To get us to platform as a service. So we didn't have to worry about the operating system at all. The DevOps team pushed back and said, no, you know, we need to make sure what's going on, because as the platform aged, we just weren't keeping up with the patches and the updates. So when we were in Tier Point, we had things that were still, some of our servers that were still on Debian, right? And, you know, Ubuntu way long ago. So one of the things we did over time was, now with everything being containerized, this is happening, we're staying current, right? Like they were just talking about the latest Ubuntu that just came out, that they're installing that on dev. And then after a couple of weeks of testing on dev, we'll be able to automatically upgrade that. So I don't know that it's infrastructure as code. It's like, you know, it's not automatically, you know, swoosh, put in the latest operating system. There's still checks and balances to, you know, get a human to say, yes, we want to go, you know, to the latest version. Does that
We're very
answer?
much we're in kind of a similar place in that we're having to lift and shift a banner ERP infrastructure, and we're trying to do as much infrastructure as code as possible. Next, use Ansible and other automation.
Yep.
There's still stuff that we have to get into. We still need a person to get into a service and tweak it. It's not going to come up automatically by itself. So I guess it's reasonable to expect that it'll take us maybe some time before we get to that state that we'd like to, where we can just press a button like George Jetson and everything comes back up.
Yeah, we did things in baby steps. We used to use Ansible. I don't think we use it at all anymore. I think everything's been contained. Like, I think everything runs through Docker and the containers. I haven't heard anybody talk about Ansible. But even us getting Ansible was an improvement when we did that, you know, just to have a repeatable process written down. You know, a lot of it was, you know, seat of the pants or mentoring, you know, oh, these are the scripts you run, right? So getting tools like Ansible into our system was amazing. You know, and those things just didn't exist, you know, when we started. There was no such thing, right? The only way you did things was command line, basically, right? So.
Well,
there was a reInvent video a couple years ago, and I'm trying to find it again. It was really, really interesting about, there was a company that the last part of the name was Base. I don't remember if it was Coinbase or Couchbase or Codebase, but they treated everything in their entire fleet as cattle, meaning that there was no EC2 instance that was older than 30 days in their entire. So when they, so it was totally immutable. So when they retire an instance from the fleet of an auto scaling group and add some more in, it has the latest patches, the latest security patch, everything, and it was never touched. Configuration, patching, they just, nothing existed more than 30 days.
Wow.
And it was a really interesting approach. I've been trying to find that video. It's come up as a topic a couple of times in the last month, so I'm gonna redouble my effort to find it, but it was a reinvented video about that kind of robust CI/CD pipeline.
I know
Yeah.
you're familiar with Chaos Monkey.
Yeah.
And did they use a similar
I'm not
approach?
sure if they were using Chaos Monkey. If I remember, it was, they just had a very robust, so CI/CD is continuous integration, continuous
Development.
deployment. I'm missing one. There's also 3 aspects to it. But they just basically had a process where everything was automated. That you might need approvals, right? Like a button, like some, but most of it was just deploy the code and everything was automatic, and anything, there was no instance that lived longer than 30 days. By design, they were immutable. You don't change the configuration. No one SSHs to monkey around with the EC2 instance. They just got rid of it, and a new one deployed, and when the new one deployed, it gets the latest patches, the latest whatever.
I did that probably 6 or 7 years ago now. We had a fleet that came up during business hours. So overnight there'd be 2 machines, during the day there'd be 10 for the main web servers. And yeah, it was always kill the oldest. So it was never more than 2 days old. And put in new servers very easily.
When you mentioned Terraform,
Yeah, which is similar to CloudFormation.
well, I used to work for AWS and I was like into CloudFormation, but Terraform is so much easier. I don't know if anybody here has used Terraform, but
I'm sorry, my colleague, Mike Buckler, isn't here. He's a big fan.
of what, Terraform?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a big fan of Terraform right now, and obviously, if you're multi-cloud, then you want to use a Terraform, and they support a lot of different providers besides the 4 or 5 major cloud providers. You could also do Cisco and Juniper and a whole bunch of other stuff with Terraform. But the ease of use of it and the tracking of the state and stuff like that, and I think it does a better job of tearing down stuff when you need to make stuff go away than even CloudFormation, because and Donna may want to hear this too. In AWS, it's very easy to provision things, and even if you destroy things, even sometimes you wind up with a bunch of orphaned resources all over the place. I mean, I've seen volumes where I've seen snapshots 8 or 9 years old, orphaned volumes for 3 or 4 years. I mean, do you really need the data in those volumes of 3 or 4 years old? Or are you going to really restore a snapshot that's 8 years old? Probably not. You know, so what I liked about the Terraform, which probably sounds like you know it, right? It makes everything go away that needs to go away, which I think it does a better job in the CloudFormation.
Yeah, and we actually use it for more than infrastructure. So we put like all our on-call schedules, all our monitoring, like our alerts. We specify as Terraform templates, and then we just create those from scratch. We can just like flip and shift wherever we want to go. It will provision everything for us.
The beauty of it is, it's a third-party company. I think it's got a tool called TerraTag that does a great job of not only enforcing tag compliance, but it'll also go back on things that are not tagged and tag them. So it's called TerraTag. I think it's, I'll have to find it. It's really cool too. So actually, I'm into Terraform now. I used to drink the orange Tang when I was at AWS, but since I've now left and detoxed, I don't.
Well, I know, Rick, I'm pretty sure you're on our Slack channel. Hi, I'm Rob Jones.
Rob Denzel Morris, like Denzel Washington.
Only more handsome. Denzel Morris. Yeah, I hope I hope maybe you'll join our Slack channel and we can keep this going, you know?
To give you some history, so I come from like Datadog.
I've been that.
And we're about the most recent.
Yeah.
So like, I have a lot of experience.
Did you see that?
in AWS, like that works. So, yeah.
I'm looking for
I'm
it.
like doing the searching for.
It might have been
Great. I'll see you when we're done. Then get your email. Does anybody have anything else for Donna?
I have one more question. You referenced like 1 billion video views, and I'm wondering over what time frame.
What time, like, so from 2007 on, we've had videos. I mean, the duration, how long they are?
Well, I get more so like the traffic volume, so like views per second, say.
You had a slide earlier.
We're doing 1,500 at our peak. I don't think we're not at that anymore. Like,
Oh, did I miss this?
yeah, so we were doing about 1,500 requests per second at our peak, and that was, we were streaming 1 petabyte a month back then. I would say at this point we're down to under 1 million views a day. So, because we're focused much more on a smaller client base, right?
Okay, great, thank you.
So I don't have an answer for that one.
Well, yeah, it's okay, you answered it. I missed this slide, actually. Sorry about that.
It's not opening.
Well, we certainly don't have to go anyplace. Will, are you looking at the comments, or do you have anybody online who's
No comments
questions?
per se, just the Tanya dropped off, but she said really informative, quite a journey. Thank you. I actually know Tanya, she's in Wisconsin, so we've got a cross federal lines,
Wow.
state audience tonight. Yeah.
It's great. For a while, we had a guy in Ontario someplace. A Serb from Ontario. Nice guy.
Is there anybody else online actually from that joined from Zoom?
Yes, we've got
Curious, I would see Jason.
Jason, Darren, and myself.